I'd like to welcome all of you to the NPA meeting tonight. We have a very full agenda, so we're going to try to start. We're going to start while people are eating, and then we're going to try to move it along. Bathrooms are down the hall, right, just outside. First of all, we have announcements. Yes.
Branch Out Burlington's doing a tree walk of Champlain College. It starts at 10 a.m. at Tower Terrace. There will be cookies and lots of smart people that can tell you all about trees. And it's a short walk around Champlain College, highly enjoyable. I have Saturday at 10, before the history talk at noon.
Are there more announcements?
Yes.
I need it.
Okay, good, I can't see, so you're going to have to.
And I'm just going to say, okay, I have to talk like this. Bram and I, between 8 and 10, will be at Speeder and Earl's. If you want to talk about the session or any other issue that is of concern to you. And so we look forward to seeing some of you there.
Also Saturday.
Oh, did I not say that? Yeah, it's Saturday from 8 to 10.
Are there more announcements?
Yes.
Okay.
Hi. Yeah, I'm representing the Ad Hoc Green Infrastructure Committee, and we've been coming to the NPA. My name's Megan Epler-Wood, and the other committee members, Nancy Harkin of this NPA is on the committee, as is Diane Geyer. And we're going to have a rain garden tour on June 29th. We haven't gotten the flyers ready yet, but this is the last meeting before that, so we will be putting information out on Front Porch Forum and getting flyers out, and that's going to run from let's see, 3 p.m. to 5:30 p.m., and we're going to have, information at each garden by way of how it's designed and exactly what are the intentions of helping our community to help with stormwater runoff and how you yourself can get involved. We're going to have about 5 gardens on the tour, South Street, each one with its own very particular and interesting design. My own yard is going to be in there. And then we're also going to have Champlain College and Edmonds Elementary School. So we'll look forward to everyone learning more about rain gardens. And we're working with the water department on some of these issues because of all the rain that we are experiencing. That's going to be having a big effect on us from now forward. And so we're hoping everyone will take a big interest, and it's a beautiful and wonderful thing to do. So we hope to see you for the rain garden tour and that is on June 29th between 3 and 5:30 p.m. And we'll be getting more information out. Thank you.
Any other announcements? Okay. Then we will move on. Of course, we're starting with city council updates. So that's Becca and Bud.
Are we in public forum?
Oh, we should, yes. Yes, I'm sorry. Right, now we have a few minutes for public forum for people to make comments. Yes.
Yeah, should I?
Yeah,
on the
yes.
microphone? Hi, I'll get us started here. My name is Livia DeMarcus. I live at 357 South Prospect Street, and I'm here in opposition to UVM's plan to build a 14,000 square foot medical facility across the street from our houses on South Prospect, like on Redstone Green. We found out about this through a half-page mailing this weekend, and I think it was on Monday. WCAX ran a story, basically saying this is happening, and yet we still haven't gotten any information about how that's going to affect parking, how many students are going to be visiting it, how many staff are going to work there. It's right up on the street front, from what we can tell from the one 2 by 1 inch drawing that we were provided with, and it's completely out of scale with the rest of the buildings that are fronting on the street. And I think that if UVM needs another medical facility, they've got plenty of space that's more internal to campus where they could put something like that. So I'm here in opposition, and I plan to be strongly opposed to it at each step in the process, but wanted to voice my feelings about it as early as I could, as early as I've been given the opportunity to. So thank you, everyone.
Here on South Prospect, is it?
Yeah, so do you know where the little stone gatekeeper's cottage is on Redstone? It'll be right north of that, like in what's now kind of a little wooded area. So between the gatekeeper's cottage and 322 South Prospect. So, thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Other public forum comments?
Hi, my name is Dan Feeney. I live at 283 South Prospect Street. By a show of hands here in this room, how many folks know about this project that UVM is working on? Okay, so that, I see 7, 8, maybe 10 hands out of probably 35 people. My wife and I have lived on South Prospect Street and Robinson Parkway now for 30-something years. We've had 3 daughters go through Edmonds Elementary School. Got to use the mic, huh?
Yes, for the recording here.
Okay. I vigorously oppose this project, and I vigorously oppose the way it was communicated to those of us who have helped make Burlington the city that it is. We are constantly brought in at the last second, and it's really disappointing. We live on South Prospect Street. We lived on Robinson Parkway. I just don't understand why the powers that be up at UVM can't reach out earlier and ask for some input by the people that live on that street. And so I'm here tonight to let you know that we will do everything we can to oppose this project. Thank you.
Other comments?
Hello, I'm Barbara Hedrick. I live at 282 South Prospect, and I am strongly opposed to UVM relocating its student medical and mental facility from Central Campus to our residential neighborhood. Our residential neighborhood is a historic site. Its character is cohesive because it's residential. City zoning regulations would not allow any of us to establish a medical facility 100 feet north of where UVM wants to build its facility. Even though UVM has more leeway on campus regarding zoning regulations, its plan to build this medical facility along our residential street is extremely disrespectful of all of us who live there and nearby. A medical facility in this location is unnecessarily intrusive. I would like to learn what other locations UVM considered for this facility and the pros and cons that UVM identified for all those other locations, as well as the location it's suggesting. I'd like to know why UVM doesn't use more of the space it owns at 1 South Prospect Street to expand and consolidate its student health services. UVM owns 243,000 square feet of finished space at 1 South Prospect Street. It's a medical office building. UVM Student Health Services is already located there and is using only 6,000 square feet of the 240,000 square feet UVM owns there. UVM only needs to reduce the amount of space it leases to the hospital in order to have another 8,000 square feet and a total of 14,000 square feet it wants. This is a space management issue that UVM and the hospital ought to be able to work out. UVM would be able to avoid spending $16.5 million on a new building just by renovating the space it owns at 1 South Prospect Street and adding some larger signs to the outside of the building entrance so students know what door to use. Frankly, I'm more than disappointed with UVM. I'm fed up. Its attitude and actions in doing whatever it wants along our residential street, regardless of the harm it causes our neighborhood, is really bad form. Everyone in the city, the Planning Zoning Office, DRB, city councilors need to do a much better job protecting our neighborhoods next to UVM, because UVM is ruining all of them. Thank you for considering these opinions.
Thank you. Other comments? Okay. Then,
Hi, I'm Jean Landau. I live at 292 South Prospect Street, and I am in strong agreement with Dan and Amy, Livia, Becca, that we strongly oppose the development of a facility like this in our residential neighborhood. A 14,000 square foot building is enormous, and I've lived there for about 11 years, and just the increase in traffic in the past 11 years alone is substantial, and it impacts our daily lives, I would say, and as residents who are taxpayers, I think that our perspective needs to be considered. Prior to this meeting, like Dan said, learning about it kind of last minute has been a little disrespectful and unappreciated. Thank you.
thank you for the comment. Any more takers? I guess it's your turn.
Could I make a suggestion? None of my business, I didn't want to. But someone could make a motion to say that for the July meeting, if you have a July meeting of the Ward 6 NPA, that you have on the agenda an invitation to UVM to come to the NPA meeting. Oh, sorry, I missed that. Forget everything I just said. Thank you.
Now our city councilors.
Okay, great. Hi, everyone. I'm Becca Brown McKnight. I'm the city councilor for Ward 6. Thanks for having me. And I think we're also joined by South District Councilor Buddy Singh online. Although I'm not, if he's not promoted to a panelist, maybe, oh, there he is. Okay. Hi, Buddy. Hi. So I'm going to start with a brief update on what we've been up to at the City Council. As you may have heard, our biggest accomplishment recently was passing a resolution that was aimed at supporting downtown businesses and rebuilding a vibrant, safe, and welcoming downtown Burlington. That resolution included 4 real sort of areas that we were looking at, and those areas were based on feedback that we heard from businesses and residents all over the city. And really, you know, it's been a months-long process of hearing cries for help from our downtown business community, so we were happy to be able to step up and take some significant actions to help with that. And so what the next steps are the first thing we're looking at is the Main Street construction project. The DPW will be coming back to us with a plan for either opening one way or making more intersections more usable more of the time. They're going to kind of come back to us with a menu of options and the associated costs that it would take to do those options, and then we'll have a discussion about what we can afford and what, you know, have some public input on that as well. The second thing that the resolution does is task the Business and Workforce Development Department with doing some forward-thinking planning, part of which they were already doing at the request of the mayor's administration, to really re-envision what our downtown economy is going to look like and should look like, you know, depending on all of the big picture trends that are going on in the world. For example, since we're living in the age of Amazon, you know, maybe we need to encourage other types of business that do some of their own manufacturing, light manufacturing, right there. That's one thing they're looking at. So we're going to be following up with that. We also are coordinating with the police department to have a more responsive presence downtown, which Chief Burke has been an amazing addition to the Burlington team, and I think folks probably have already noticed, I know I have, a more visible presence and sort of a, you know, that helping hand that's needed downtown. And then the last thing that the resolution did, which is mentioned on the agenda, is look at our parking garage. And so the Marketplace garage, we've learned, is has lost $60,000 in revenue this year, and we've also been paying the sheriff's office $75,000 a year to keep the stairwells clean and to deal with, some unwanted activity there. And so given that the taxpayers are paying, are kind of out $150,000, it was really important to look at making that space more accessible. And you might have heard one piece of that is looking at a improved location for the food distribution service that's there. So we were happy to get a path forward with that, and happy that the mayor signed the resolution, and we're going to be working to collaborate on a values-driven and humane solution to that, so that we can keep showing up as the Burlington we are, keep taking care of everyone that lives here, and also kind of I'm hoping for a win-win outcome, right? The parking garage is now for parking again, and the food distribution hopefully has a better location with better infrastructure like a bathroom and running water and a supportive community partner. So that is in terms of new policy, that's the update there. And then just in general, I think I mentioned this at the last meeting, we're also deep into the budgetary process, and we will be working with the mayor's administration to pass a balanced budget, which looks like everybody's property taxes are actually going to go down a little bit this year, which is very nice news to be able to share. And so you'll be hearing more details on that as the next couple of weeks go by. Our due date to approve that is June 30th, so it's coming right up. And Buddy, would you like to weigh in with anything else?
Just two things. I would say Becca was integral in getting that resolution passed. She worked very hard with both the progressives and the mayor's office, workforce development, the police department. So it was a lot of people to bring together. And I think that's a credit to Becca, showing that she's able to work collaboratively across the aisle to make something like that happen. I think she deserves a lot of credit, and I hope the city benefits from this. Secondly, I'd also say on the tax and the budgetary front, I saw Claire Wool in the background, and we would be remiss to say that the tax bill is going to go down, but we owe a lot of that to the school board and their work with the updates in how schools are being funded. So I think it's really important to show that it was really the school board that has driven the affordability here for us here in Burlington, and along with the cooperation now of the council and the mayor's office. So thanks again for everybody's support, and look forward to the rest of this meeting.
Great. I just wanted to add two more things, sorry. One quick thing, Buddy, that you reminded, because we were there together last night, is there was not an opening party, sort of like a mid-construction party at the Leahy BTV Airport last night for what's called Project Next, which is a brand new terminal that they're building that we were able, that the leadership there was able to do with federal dollars and a combination of federal dollars and airport fees, which means we don't have to pay for it and we get to, get the advantages of it. And it was really amazing to see. And I think keep your eye out for when that's open, because it's going to be really exciting. We're really sort of rocketing forward into the next century with our airport. And then I just did want to echo some of the comments that we heard earlier. I think I've lived in college towns for my whole life, and I think there's a reason that college towns are often on the sort of top 10 list of best places to live in America. And I think Burlington has the potential to be like that. And when it works so well, right? Like when we went to the soccer parade downtown, and we have these moments, or you go to a sports game, you have these moments of coming together. You can see how great we are as a city and a university when we come together. And then I feel like with this project is an example of how I think a lot of times we fall short of our potential, because when projects are moved forward without any input from the community, we haven't heard the scale, we haven't heard the size, the hours, the milestones, the timelines. We don't know if there's opportunity, we do know there's some opportunity for our questions to be heard. We don't know what the appetite for change or consideration of other possibilities is. I have this is the the letter that we received, which is about 100 words long for a 1,400 square foot building, which is in a neighborhood that, doesn't even have a coffee shop. 14,000, yeah, sorry. Doesn't even have a coffee shop or a corner store or a traditional office building of any kind. And I actually do want to be clear, I'm not commenting myself on my personal opinion of this project because I actually live across the street, and I'm not going to use my political elected position to advocate for a personal benefit. But just on the communication side of things, we've really fallen short here, and so I just hope that this is a beginning of a much more collaborative process moving forward, and I hope that everyone can see how important it is to do better, because I imagine, mental health care is in short supply in the state of Vermont, and I imagine that there could, in some world, be a potential sort of win-win outcome. Maybe the neighborhood could benefit from something like this. That's not in the letter. It doesn't seem like it's something anyone has even thought of, but that's the kind of thinking that we need. We need to think about what's good for the university and what's good for the community, and how can we kind of have an additive process to make the outcomes successful for everyone, and that's really not the process that was used here. So I'm hoping that we can have a reset and adjust that moving forward. Thank you.
Well, and now,
I need to beep, beep,
and now we're moving forward to the UVM team, so go ahead.
Yep. Thank you. I can share from here.
Thank you. My name's Lisa Kingsbury. I'm the Associate Director of Planning at UVM, and I'm here with Blake Riley, the Executive Director of UVM's Center for Health and Wellbeing, and Alex Halpern, who's the President of Freeman French Freeman and lead architect on this project. And this is a very awkward way to present, because there's not any way I can sit that I'm not turning my back on someone. But I just want to start by acknowledging the comments that have come up. This project, we obviously have done conceptual design for it, which would be the appropriate time to come and talk to our neighbors. It wasn't an official project till it got board approval, and that was on, I believe, May 20th. So this was the first NPA meeting from there that we could come and talk to the neighborhood. I'll apologize for not putting more detail in the letter. I guess I was thinking that it would be better to come and talk and have a more fruitful conversation. Unfortunately, we're not going to have time to do that tonight. It's a packed agenda. There's no way we can really have a good conversation in 15 minutes. I don't know if we're even going to get to questions in 15 minutes. So I've heard from some of you in the room tonight, and I've heard from people other neighbors as well, and we are going to schedule a standalone meeting for this project on campus and make sure that we get out notice with enough time for people to plan for that. So we're thinking late June, early July. So we're looking for timing on that now, and then we're going to send out a notification. Now I'm turning my back on all of you. I'm sorry. We're going to send a notification out to the neighborhood, and then the NPA has also offered to help publicize the meeting. So I just want to assure you all that this is 15 minutes tonight. I'm thinking this is like a preview. We're going to give you some of the details that you're looking for, probably not all of the details, and then we'll have time for a longer conversation on campus, and I hope that you all will be able to join us for that. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Blake, and he's going to talk about the project, the need, and the kinds of services that the Center for Health and Wellbeing provides.
Thank you, Lisa. So thank you for inviting us here today to discuss, and I do look forward to working with many of you in the future, as well as with Alex and others on further discussions to be had. And I thought that we would start by giving just a brief overview of what is the Center for Health and Wellbeing at UVM. What do we do? What does it look like? What is our value set? What are we trying to accomplish? So the Center for Health and Wellbeing, and you'll hear me refer to it as CHWB throughout this presentation, it's comprised of our student health services, counseling and psychiatry services, athletic medicine, and our health promotion unit. We have about 8,000 unique students a year go through our services, but our primary goal is to provide integrated and holistic services for students. So they come to UVM, they come to Burlington, and then they're able to graduate from UVM with a degree in hopefully 4 years, maybe 6, maybe more, right? But our goal is to take care of them while they're here, and that's what's really important. Our current space that we have is quite frankly inadequate. We're nationally accredited by AAA-HC, which is an ambulatory healthcare organization, and every single year on our reviews, we get dinged for the space that we have, and we'll get into that a little bit more. And quite frankly, it won't be tolerated much longer for us. You can see our current health clinic. It's not this huge building that we're looking at here in that first picture, but that's our entryway to our health clinic at South Prospect Street. There's a lot of other items inside that building that are really important for the community, really important for healthcare within Burlington, right? Mental health urgent care is in this building currently. There's different primary care, nephrology at UVMMC. Those aren't our services at the Center for Health and Wellbeing, but those are other items taking up space in this building. When you think about it, what Student Health Services is looking at this picture is this little box in the bottom of concrete that you see kind of in the tan. This is the oldest space in UHC Old Hall. It's called the rehab wing, and the easiest way for students to access this clinic is for them to walk down this back alley, and no matter which way we describe it, how we describe it, where we describe it, they struggle getting there each and every time, and its location truly is a barrier to their access to healthcare, because they get confused. They really do when they're coming to this building. We currently have fragmented mental health service delivery, meaning it's spread across campus and spread wide. And quite frankly, the needs of college students today are very different than 10 years ago, right? They're coming to campus with more complex needs and more holistic needs, and we want to support them in that. But our goal is also to serve the same number of students. We're not necessarily trying to serve more students or cram more people in. Our goal is to support the students that we have, to decrease their wait times, to increase the likelihood that they succeed. And I think what you've heard is the clinic is inadequate and dated. There's an example right to the right. That's one of our exam rooms. That exam room is under 80 square feet. It doesn't meet guidelines for standards for outpatient clinics anywhere by the CFG. So what does that look like? Why don't we expand? Why don't we renovate? Why don't we move to different places? Our space is already too small, so there's nowhere to renovate. That would just result in creating less exam rooms to support our students. Why don't we renovate? There's nowhere to expand outside this clinic. And sending students, we already have additional space inside the hospital, and sending students to additional space inside UHC is very difficult. And we'll take questions at the end. Thank you. They get confused. They wind up walking into other clinics. They wind up at the pharmacy. It's very difficult to find. So I talked about the clinic being undersized. 33% of our appointments are scheduled farther out than we would like. And thinking about the types of services that we provide within this space, think about your primary care provider, right? It's colds, it's coughs, it's flus, it's UTIs and sexual health. When students really are just having a tough time and they need to get through and need some medical support, that's what they're coming to Student Health Services for. We're currently open 8 to 4:30 Monday through Friday. And also, when our students can't get into health services, they wind up going to the ED, right? They wind up going to UVMMC, they go to the ED. Students wind up paying emergency room charges, they wind up taking emergency room space, and those are spaces that community members could have, but it's because they can't get into our current health services. We talked about fragmented mental health service delivery, and I heard some questions about what types of things are seen for mental health care, right? For the Healthy Mind Study, which is the largest study in the nation for colleges and universities, 57% of college students across the nation are experiencing depression and 36% anxiety. That's what we're doing at our mental health services. We're supporting students who just need somebody to talk to. They just want to walk in, talk to a mental health professional, and support them in order to get to the next thing, in order to complete their exam, compete in the athletic competition, succeed in the classroom, succeed in their clubs or engagements. That's what is happening for our mental health services. And when services are connected and services are together, we know that students are more likely to follow through. Where right now, if a student needs mental health support and they're in our medical clinic, that's a mile walk away for them. So co-location between the medical and mental health services is imperative for the future of students at UVM and for the students that we have there now. Our project objectives are to right-size the clinic in order to support our current students to reduce those wait times, cohesive mental health services, as I've mentioned, and adequate space that increases access and reduces wait times. Ultimately, integrated clinical services and retention at UVM is the goal. So here's just a map of you can see where the current locations is, and I do want to point out that the counseling services is actually currently on the Redstone Green, right off of the Redstone Green. They're in a residence hall, which is an unideal location. Again, it's that mix that's hard, that's difficult to find for students. And we also support graduate students. We support future counselors who are at UVM and from other locations. And those counselors go on to be counselors in this community. There's tons of counselors within Burlington who have gone through this training program. And that's one of the goals of moving to 322, is to expand that training program to support more future counselors. So in terms of the move from, you can see Wright Hall there, across the Redstone Green to 322, that's the same group of counselors and the same group of students are expecting to be accessing that. So foot traffic would be very, very similar there. This specific site, and why was this specific site chosen, is because it gives the opportunity for that co-location that I've been discussing. There aren't opportunities like that on campus, across the campus, and that's something that was incredibly important, was to get that counseling right next to medical services. So that's something that's incredibly important, and it's also very close to where many of our students are living in terms of students walking. You can see on this chart formally, and then I'll turn it over to Alex, the current counseling clinic is that pink dot all the way to the right, and then the current health services are all the way to the left. And what this would do is it would move these two services right next to each other. So I'll turn it over to Alex to talk about the specifics of the project a bit more.
Sure. So this site was identified as an ideal site, and as an architect, we're trying to find out, can it work? So the big part of the feasibility phase here and the conceptual phase was, can this program fit here and fit comfortably and sensitively within the residential neighborhood? Is it the right scale? And can it enhance both the university and the neighborhood? So here, the gray outline is the footprint of the building. You can see it undulates. We'll have other views in a minute. The access is from University on the green side. There is no access from South Prospect Street whatsoever. The building is set back more than 30 feet from the sidewalk, meeting planning and zoning regulations in terms of all the setbacks, heavily landscaped. You can see there's a plaza at the entry to the south. And again, the facade has been articulated to work with the scale and form of the neighborhood. Next slide. Oh, so on the, sorry, go right back. Yeah, upper left is 322 Prospect, where the counseling offices are. That's, you can see the yellow square just below that. There's an arrow pointing to that existing house. This is a view looking to the northwest, so we're kind of bird's eye up over the green. If you had that clump of trees in the middle of the green, kind of looking down to the northwest, that would be the main entrance to the facility. You can see the Redstone cottage at the exit to the Redstone loop there. To the right of the facility is the existing Blundell. It's a historic, modern building, existing Blundell building, which currently has classroom and administrative space in it. So again, you enter, there's a heavily landscaped plaza there, modern building entrance that speaks to Blundell, and then you can start to see the residential shapes that are replicating the cottage size and form as it heads north. This is, again, a view as you come and approach the health center. So it's a more modern side to the building, mixed with landscape, with that plaza to wait. And again, this is looking to the northwest. Prospect Street is to the left. This is a view on Prospect. So if you were standing at the curb of Prospect, just towards the end of the existing Redstone wall, looking to the southeast. You can see on the very far right the Redstone cottage, and then this building has it's a single-story building. The roof lines on it are no taller than any of the buildings in the existing neighborhood. The material, we're at a feasibility concept stage. This is why the building's in kind of a virtual museum board. We don't know what the materials are, but it's critical that this building and its facade fit into the fabric of the neighborhood and harmonize with it. If it didn't do that, it would not be a viable project, and I believe it is. So as the building goes in and out, like you saw on the plan, there's landscaping and trees to help it blend. So even though it's a large footprint, the way it pushes and pulls fits in with the neighborhood. And that's what we have at this point. We really do look forward to an interactive process with the neighborhood. I think that the news that leaked out there is, like Lisa said, there was a approval process, and that coming to the NPA, I think, is a point to get that feedback from everybody.
Yeah, so just going to add on the timeline. So as I mentioned, we took this project to the board in May. We're at conceptual design, and now, we want to talk to our neighbors, neighborhood planning assemblies. We also have internal campus committee reviews that we have not gone through yet. So we'll be doing that this summer, and then the plan would be to go into, final plan development in the fall and into spring, and local and state permitting. We will have to do, both municipal and Act 250 permitting for this. And then the thought is construction starting in summer of 2026. So that's where we are. I know we're already at time, so I don't know if we have time for a couple of questions or however you want to do this, Anita.
Let's have questions.
Okay.
Well, I just have a point that I live next to Champlain College, and we had a lot of difficulty with Champlain College expansion, much like this, where you go to the board, you get an approval, then you come to the neighborhood, and it's a disaster. And what we forced them to do, unwilling, we went through the whole Act 250 process, it was ugly, but eventually we forced them into a master plan. And they got a master plan approved, and then they built to that plan. And the neighbors loved it. And we had big paths, we had, the accessibility was better, but the process of getting a master plan in place and letting us know that this is a potential building lot is a really helpful process.
That dovetails perfectly with my question, which is that I've seen over the years master plans for UVM, and not once has this been mentioned as the site of a potential medical facility. So that was question number one. Question number two, the idea that there's nowhere else on campus that you can co-locate these, resources is frankly absurd. I mean, I'm sorry. It's fine that mental health is in a residential building. I don't have a problem with that. But if you want to build a huge facility and you're saying you can't build it internal to campus and put another residence next to it for mental health, I mean, that's just totally bonkers. I'm sorry. Again, nobody's commented on where any of the staff are going to park, how many staff will be there. I mean, I might not ever be able to get out of my driveway again. I already have trouble sometimes with the UVM bus that's coming in. If that Redstone loop is being used by staff to exit and enter all the time, or by students who don't have, who live off campus and are driving instead of walking. I totally understand it if you need to locate this, near the dorms. But again, like up behind the music facility, near the Catholic Center, there's a place more internal to campus that's closer, frankly, to the athletic fields and the dorms that seems much more appropriate and is bigger. It's more wide open and I think could accommodate this better. So anyway, those are my off-the-cuff thoughts after listening to that. Thank you.
Yeah, I do want to note the parking question. We are not adding any new parking with this. There is an existing lot. There is actually 2 existing lots there. The smaller one will be going away with this project, and then maybe a little bit of, we're still working through maybe some short-term handicap parking on the road, not a lot, but we're not adding parking with this.
Yeah, I mean, UVM students already burden the parking on the road. We have resident-only parking in front of my house. It's completely used by the sorority every day, which is their right. That's fine. But further up the street, if you take more spots away, I mean, that's really going to burden the neighborhood. And I don't, I guess, buy that the faculty that'll need to be there can all fit in the lot that's existing already. So it seems like you're going to be relying. I mean, I think concurrent with this, the city is thinking of changing the rules on resident-only parking to allow businesses in the area to use resident-only parking. So I have a feeling that you're looking to capitalize on that to some degree as well. And
Never
use
asked the city for that.
No, I know you don't have to ask them though, but that's just a rule that's going to be changing that you could make use of, and then the residents aren't going to be able to park. So,
Just to comment on parking for maybe a little bit of context. And I'm not the parking person at UVM, but I can talk about the experiences of our staff parking. So many of our staff right at UVM, we kind of have this ranked parking system by brown pass, white pass, green pass, et cetera. And many of our staff who have brown passes park at the Gutterson lot currently. So I would expect in terms of parking that much of the staff parking will remain the same because there's same expectations. I actually was in a meeting the other day, and a staff member was excited that they were closer to the Gutterson lot. So in terms of parking specifically, that is not necessarily going to be hugely impacted. We also plan to make some patient spaces like we have at our current clinic, which we have a good beat on, and kind of how many patient spaces you would need that works there, and it's not a ton. I think we have about 8 to 10 patient spaces out front, and there's absolutely the ability to do that with the existing space.
just a few more comments on your presentation. So, I mean, oh, I'm sorry. I just was saying a few more comments on the presentation. So you were saying that, students can't get appointments in a timely fashion. I think, just to say it, nobody can, because there aren't enough doctors around. So it's not a student-specific thing, and I don't think it's space that's limiting it. I think it's physician availability. But and then the other comment I just was going to make is that, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think students who get medical attention are then presumably in many cases going to need to access a pharmacy. Right now at 1 South Prospect, there is a pharmacy there where they can go get prescriptions filled. I hope to God you're not planning to put a pharmacy here on top of everything else. Are you? And
there's no planned pharmacy currently in the building.
Okay, so then students are going to have to walk a mile back in the opposite direction to get their prescriptions, right?
students get prescriptions from all over depending on their ability to fill. So they may get them from CVS in the community. It depends where their preference is and what that looks like. It's not, right, that's a UVM Medical Center pharmacy, so it's not specifically connected to UVM, and we can't specifically funnel students into one location. They get the option of where to choose. Some students do choose
But
that
if I'm a
pharmacy.
sick student and I'm at the doctor's and I need a prescription filled, I'm probably not going to, especially in the winter, want to walk a mile. I would rather go to the pharmacy that's in the building where I've just been seen, right?
Some students will go to that one, and the students will also go to other ones. So it just depends on availability for filling
Okay.
and what
I'm
the
just saying
timeline
that
looks
if I'm
like.
a student, I would be very frustrated if I didn't have the ability to fill a prescription that I needed if I was sick.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I guess if this moves forward, we'd be looking for an absolute firm commitment that there would never be a retail pharmacy at that. I mean, that.
We're not planning to build a retail pharmacy in the location.
Yeah, but excuse me, that I at this point have lost all trust.
Okay.
In the
Fair
plans
enough.
because, like I said, I've seen lots of master plans that never said you were planning to build a 14,000 square foot medical facility across the street from my house. So.
Fair enough.
I'm sorry to be rude, but.
One last quick point is that there seems to be a concern, it's the 14,000 square foot building. And as I understood, it's a single level building. Would they ever consider putting a basement and maybe an atrium where the property owners on Prospect still only see the small little home type things up above, but then most of it's below ground? I just throw it out as a idea.
And again, we're in this concept feasibility phase, so nothing's off the table. We did a fit, we know it fits. We know it can fit architecturally and sensibly in that neighborhood. It does need to be on one level. Just functionally as a health services center, you don't want to be going up and down elevators. For this size and scale of small.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
You're absolutely crazy.
Okay, thank you.
Go over to UVM, you ride an elevator. University of Michigan, you ride elevators.
Well,
You go to Boston, you ride elevators up and down.
I appreciate your comment on my character, but I will say that this is not a hospital, and I'm not crazy. Thank you.
Listen, we can have honest disagreements. Alex Halpern is a spectacular person. He's done more in this community than probably all of us.
Well,
So
I'm sorry,
I'm
but
just-
I come from this.
I don't care where you come from. Keep the comments calm.
I'm just saying, you can have health care on more than.
That's not what you said, and I think it's on tape. So just calm down. Alex is a good guy. He just did what the University of Vermont asked him to do. Can we agree to that?
I think we should just move on.
No, I get a chance to ask my question.
Okay, well, go ahead with your question.
I just had to defend a really good person. Is that okay?
Okay, but let's go ahead and do your question. Thank you, then, please.
So my question is, if these 12 people didn't show up, what were you guys expecting to happen tonight?
We came here to talk with folks and discuss and to hear what's happening and what's going on. So that's something that we want to take into consideration as we continue with the schematic and conceptual design process.
Were other locations considered for this?
Yes, other locations were considered.
Are we aware that the Burlington School District's entire facility is basically empty on Colchester Ave?
I'm not going to speak for the Burlington School District. We can't.
No, I'm asking if you guys are aware that the Burlington School District next door is entirely empty.
We can't make plans for a building that we don't own, but sure.
It's a basic
I hear you.
question. Please don't get,
Yes. Okay.
like, we're decent people here. We're just
I
trying
know.
to understand
I'm trying to
that
get your
this is the only space it can be. This is the only space in all of that space. This is where it has to be. The gentleman over here who referenced Champlain College, the difference back then when Champlain College put together their master plan, they were led by a guy named Roger Perry, Dave Finney, and Dave Provost. We don't have a president that's been here that too long, And unfortunately, you guys are stuck holding the bag. And so there's absolutely no accountability anymore. And so we don't have any trust in what you guys are saying. She spoke quite eloquently. Where was this in the master plan 6 months ago? So thank you very much for your time.
I would just add a thought, and this isn't impacting my neighborhood. Oh, I'm sorry.
So just take it right out of the stand, take it out of the stand.
I'm just thinking from, as a nurse, and a mom that had 5 kids come through UVM, and they got sick from time to time and had to access local health care. I would just wonder if you've mentioned this facility would only be open 8 to 4:30. Kids are sick around the clock. If there's, of course, you probably have on-call plans for staff, but are the students then still going to be advised to get to the hospital for, urine, chest x-rays, lab work, or is I'm sure you're not going to accommodate x-rays at this location, but many common illnesses that college-age kids have are going to require urine, labs, chest x-ray, just to rule out some of the simple things. So that's still going to put them going to Central Campus, at least to get to the hospital and the lab. I would just think of that in terms of location, that you might want to make some of that a little more convenient. And for people with mental health needs, they're still requiring lab, follow-up, pharmacy, and perhaps even other therapies that are only available at the hospital. So I just think of convenience for students that are mostly on foot. Yes, they can access bus, but that's just an additional thing to think about in terms of your more limited hours you're planning to be open, when there's probably some data that shows how many visits are required for your students historically after hours.
Can you speak to that, the hours that it'll be open?
Yeah, it's currently open from 8 to 4:30 is our student health services hours.
And would you be maintaining those hours?
Those are the hours that we're maintaining,
Monday through Friday?
Monday through Friday currently.
Well, sorry, but you keep saying currently.
I can't speak to plans 5, 10, 15 years from now, but that is the current operations. That's been the past operations for the past few years. That's the hours. They've oscillated down a half hour, up an hour. It's been slightly different, but those are the hours that we have been within historically, and we are now.
Okay, so there would. Thank you.
So I just want to say thank you for all of your comments, and we will take them back to campus and talk to others who are involved in the planning process. And like I said, we will be having another meeting, so I hope you can all be there, and we'll talk in more detail at that point. So thank you.
How will we know when that meeting is?
So I will send out a notice, and the NPA is also going to use their mailing list to advertise it.
Mm-hmm. Send out a notice to residents that are close to it? Or?
Yeah, to the south, generally the South Prospect Street neighbors in the mail.
Bridgeport, front porch forum.
We could also do front porch forum.
Yeah, I'm sorry, one more question. I mean, if it's possible, I don't know, that was a question I had when I received it, how far and wide you were required to send that notice out? Like, was it just to the section of South Prospect directly across the street? Or?
No, we sent it to, I think it was from Cliff Street to about Robinson Parkway, all the neighbors on South Prospect Street in that stretch.
Yeah. I mean, is it possible to do like Summit and all of
Sure.
South Prospect from like,
Yep.
where it starts turning off to Maple
Yep,
at
we can
least?
do that.
Because that, and I would say Henderson as well, since they back up.
Oh, I'm sorry,
on
Henderson. We also,
Henderson,
yes,
okay.
everyone on Henderson.
And
Yes.
Robinson Parkway, I
Yes.
think, at a
Yep.
minimum. So
Yep, we
thank
can do
you.
that.
All right, great.
Yep. Thank you.
Can we let them off the hook now? I guess.
Is there a sign-up sheet for people who are here? Everybody.
Did you have a sign-in sheet?
Generally, the MPA.
Yes. We can pass one around now.
people want to sign in and be notified.
Yep. Oh, here.
Put your emails on there.
Thank you.
We're moving on to Champlain Housing Trust.
Okay, did you make me a presenter? Kirsten Merriman Shapiro from Champlain Housing Trust. Hello, everyone. Oh, you all left behind me. Oh, no. Thank you. All right, well, thanks for coming anyway. But it is better not to have too many people behind me. Okay, let me see if I can join as a panelist. A little bit of patience. I think I am.
Dr. Michael Monti.
We are up now, yeah.
Thank you, I was just going to get up and do that.
Okay. Hello. Hello. Thanks for coming out tonight. I am Kirsten Merriman Shapiro. I work for Champlain Housing Trust. I'm joined by Michael Monti, who is our CEO and leader at Champlain Housing Trust. And we're here tonight to talk to you about a new project that we have that we're proposing in Ward 6 at 322 St. Paul Street. For those of you who might need a little orientation, it is on St. Paul Street, near between Spruce and Smalley Park, on the east side of the street. And then there's one more property between this property and Spruce Street. I have a little bit of a description and our architect's rendering here. This project has been developed with help from a group of parents that we've worked with in the last year for Developmental Disability Housing Initiative, and I think a few of you are here tonight and can speak to the work that they helped us. They identified a real serious need in our community to provide housing for adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And so this project intends to create service-supported housing for adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities that balances shared resources in a homey atmosphere. And we hope it will fit well into the community. These are the elevations in the site plan. The elevations to the right on the screen, or left on the screen. The top line, that gray part, is the existing building. This project will be a renovation to the existing building and will add an addition that continues on the back part of the parcel. And you can see the site plan adjacent to it. So to the left is St. Paul Street, and then the building with the addition on the site.
I'm going to point.
If you want to, you can.
Be useful.
Sorry, it's hard for me to point from here. So, no job too big or too small for Mr. Monti.
This is the building.
Yes.
That's new. Smalley Park is here. St. Paul Street is here.
You got that right.
This is new. This is old. This is.
Yes, and on the elevation.
What the old building was, the roof home now has Afghan refugees in there.
Correct. And so we have this great building and this great site, and the city code is such that we could increase the density along the residential corridor along St. Paul Street. It would allow us to build up to 3 stories. However, these buildings are 2 stories. We felt it really fit in with the neighborhood. We worked with groups of individuals who have lived experience, and they helped us to sort of define what they felt a place where they would like to live would look like. And so that is the design that we came up with. And I don't know, it was one of the most, it was a very interesting process to get to that way to do design, and it was quite interesting and enjoyable. The next slide, this is just a few more details, so I want to go quickly so that Michael and some of the other folks have a chance to speak and you have time to answer questions. Again, the land use,
It's a supportive, affordable housing. These are for people who will have additional supports and services, and it's 10 apartments, so 10 individual apartments. The existing building is about 2,300 square feet. The addition is about 3,700 square feet. Again, height is 2 stories. The parking is going to be 6 spaces plus 2 ADA spaces. With the new addition, we've actually reduced our parking footprint by almost 2,000 square feet. It's right on the bus line there, and there's a bus stop right there at Spruce and St. Paul. In addition to the apartments, there is common space where, so we can provide the delivery of the support services. There's laundry, there'll be an elevator, and in the outside, I'll go back real quick on the site plan, in the front, we look to have some more patio space that's facing the street so that it's interactive. And with that, I'll let Michael talk a little bit more about the program, and if someone of the folks from DDHI want to come up and join us at the table, because we are supposed to use the microphone. I hope everybody could hear me on not in the room, but out on TV.
Yeah, DDHI parents, Shep, come on up. I'll be brief. CHT does a lot of different types of development. We do home ownership. We do larger rental housing. We have 6-story buildings. This is not one of these things. This is a very different project. It's very different in terms of scope and intent. We initially thought about doing this kind of work a few years ago, and we're very lucky to get a planning grant from this.
Sorry, is there a way to...
Me? I could speak louder. Yeah. The microphone's not doing anything, is it? We initiated sort of the thinking about doing this kind of housing a few years ago, and we were able to get a planning grant from the state of Vermont a few years ago to sort of do this as a pilot project. We worked with parents. Parents, raise your hand. We worked with parents on the development and the program development and the design development of this. This is a fairly unique kind of development for the state of Vermont. The folks who are being housed here are probably housed in different settings, in different locations. Many of them may even still be home and not living independently when they could be living independently. I am a parent. What? Excuse me?
Most of them are not going to be able to live independently.
Not totally independently, yes. I am a parent of a child who has a disability who qualifies for this program. I'm not building it for my child, but we are able to get support from the state of Vermont to redevelop the site. Now, the unique thing about this site, it is not a group home. It is not sort of people sort of under necessarily 24-hour care. People will have their own individual apartments, but there will also be a community setting and services available for those individuals, a very different kind of model. And in that way, doesn't really exist. What was there at that location a couple of years ago was a group home where everybody had their own room and there were services and it was mental health type of activities. The folks here not necessarily will have mental health issues. They might. But the level of support that's going to be coming to them is different than you would find in a fairly intense residential setting like a group home. When I say those kinds of things, I say those things because knowing who my son is, who is different than your daughter, who's so we all have different situations, and each child, and they're all children. Mine's 34 years old.
26 years old.
Yeah. So we are the parents of adult children with disabilities, and so we're looking for a way to make sure that they have a stable place to live, where they can get support, where they can live independently. That's really the goal here. That's what we want to do. So that's the nature of the development. That's why we're doing it. It will have more support staff on site for individuals who need it. Some individuals may simply just need a little bit light touch. Some individuals need a more heavier touch in terms of the support they're going to get. You want to correct anything I just said? No, we're good? Are we good? Okay, we're good. All right. Any questions? Do you want to add anything?
Why don't we take questions?
Okay.
Find out what people...
We'll take questions.
Yes.
My name's Bob Lighty, and my son played Little League with your son, so that was wonderful. There's a basketball court next door to this. Is that an issue? Because it's really heavily used and popular, and there's a lot of drugs for sale down the street. Is that an issue?
Go ahead.
There are parents that are concerned about that. Probably what most of us are looking for is that that our young adults will be able to stay in their communities, because most of us are like getting old, and what's going to happen with our sons and daughters who grew up in the community, who know other people in the community, who don't want to be placed in Jericho where they don't know anyone. Jericho's great, but, my son grew up in Williston. Everybody in Williston knows him. If you put him in Jericho, nobody knows him. Many of them will be able to be in the community and will go out and play basketball, but they will have staff that will either keep an eye on them or be like, you're going to be out there for an hour or something, and then we're going to have you come back in or whatever. So there are some concerns about the drugs. We are thinking that most of these people will, when they're in the community, have either the capability to handle themselves appropriately or will be with a staff person.
My son hasn't had a drink of alcohol or a beer or smoked any pot or done anything like that. So I think most of our children, given who they are and their disability, often are not necessarily the people who are doing these things.
No.
In fact, probably because of the nature of even the medication that they're using at different times in order to manage their disability, it is, that they're actually staying clear of all kinds of drugs. So that's, this is probably going to be the most sober house in the neighborhood.
How many people will live there?
There'll be 10 apartments.
10 apartments.
Is it one person per apartment?
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, there are two-bedroom apartments.
Yeah, right.
But that may either,
It might be a
Go ahead,
staff person.
explain that.
That may be a staff person, or it could be a roommate.
so it'll be far fewer people than the group home.
There are a total of 14 bedrooms because of the 12 bedrooms because of the,
There were 22, I think, before, so
Oh, and I think there were
a lot of people there.
it's a lot
They're
different.
crowded, that's why they're not there anymore.
Yeah.
So it's going to be much smaller in terms of number of folks who are there.
Yeah, thanks.
I don't know, who do I pick? Do I pick people?
Yeah, that was related to my question. With 10 or 12 people in there, what is the pool of individuals that need accommodation like this? Is this a drop in the bucket, or how's it meeting the demand?
There's the research done by the Developmental Disabilities Council in 2023 shows 602 units needed statewide. The planning grants that were put out have now, I think they're going to house approximately 25. There's a place in Moncton, there's another one in Waterbury that's going to only have 3, and there's one in Randolph that will have 2 to 4. So.
And this is as big as you could make it?
Well, this is
Many apartments?
this is what we see as a
Right size.
right size. The Medicaid will not allow large facilities anymore. People are supposed to be involved in their community and live in their community and be part of it, not in a set aside.
This is really trying to balance out sort of large institutions. This is not an institution, not even close to, and just sort of individual apartments where we really can't have a critical mass. I could say that I'm meeting with a developer in Williston pretty soon. I've met with folks in the new North End of Burlington, and so we still look at other opportunities sort of to meet this sort of broad need.
that gentleman, stand up and then you.
I'm Mark Howe, and I live on the corner of Spruce Street and Spruce Court. And I only heard about this the other day. And I think that might be because I'm probably more than 400 feet away from the site as the sidewalk goes, but not as the crow flies. My experience, the experience of folks on Spruce Court, I think has been of having a big density in that building, the one next door to it, of tons of noise. And I'm wondering about two things. One, if there's been consultation with people in the neighborhood about stuff like that. And two, if there is kind of 24-hour, is there somebody there sort of in charge 24 hours a day, or is it people coming in to sort of oversee things during the day? How does that work?
I would say that there will be staffing there often. I would say there is going to be also, we're going to be using a lot of remote sort of cameras and other things to ensure that if something is happening, there is an opportunity to respond to it. I'm not sure if we're doing 24-hour staffing or not. I'm with Howard.
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either.
It ultimately depends. We haven't, this is the first step in reaching out to the neighbors. So the city provided us a list. I'm sorry if you weren't on the list. We just went to the city, and they gave us a list of who we had to send information to. But I think it is the first step in that process. Once we go through our permitting, we will then, have to construct it, and then we will have to lease it up. So without knowing who the 10 individuals are and what their requirements are to live in this setting, it's hard for us to completely say with 100% it will be exactly like this, because it is really tailored to the individual. Each individual has their own requirements.
Thank you. Yeah, just one other follow-up question from the neighborhood perspective, and that is, how close to Spruce Court does this back up? And how close to hillside condominiums does it back up?
Share the site plan. I'm not sure what hillside condominiums, I think I know what you're talking about, but I didn't know if that was, I don't know if that's the name of the.
So let me just say this: your city councilors know how to contact me.
I think this might be Ward 5, actually.
Oh, this is. Well, it might be Ward 5.
It's Ward 6.
Ward 6, yeah, across the street.
This is Ward 6.
Yeah, we're Ward 6. That's why we're here.
I am very clear that it is in Ward 6. I double-checked.
Yeah.
Paul Street is our dividing.
Yeah.
That is correct.
Yeah. So your city councilors.
He might live in Ward 5, but.
Oh, okay. City councilors certainly know how to contact me, and what I'll say to you is that you could always. It's your fault. You will always be able to. Would you stop that? You will always be able to contact me, and I am on the phone unless I'm sleeping. Okay, and then there's also, excuse me?
You call back fast.
I call back fast. And also there will be a service provider here, and their information will be available. There's a few levels of contact. There's certainly me, there's certainly leadership at CHC, there will be a property manager for this property, and then there will be a service provider contact who you should be able to call if in fact you find some things that are going on. I could tell you that I just got a note that the place was a little trashy again, so I went through it again, and I made a note to my property manager saying, we got to get over there and sort of be able to do this. We're doing this, we're using a facility, the building right now, really in transition until we can begin the development of this property. We had Afghan folks who had no place to live. This was the opportunity to put them up without much fanfare. And so as that transitions out, we'll have staff always available for you to call.
Thank you. In the past, calling people has not availed much.
Sure, I get that. To us? To CHC? To Howard?
The supervisor, no, the previous, when Lakeview, Lakeside.
To the Howard Center, yeah. In this case, we're not master leasing it. Okay, we are having so we are individually on the leases for those individuals. That's different. Before we did a master lease with Howard, they were fully responsible for running the whole thing. This case, we're not master leasing it. We'll have an agreement for them to provide programming to the individuals who are living there, but those individuals will actually be our tenants. That's a different scenario, and then gives us a more direct kind of relationship to you as a result.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Paul Sippel. I have
I don't have questions about the function and what the building is being used for. My concern is how you're going to build the building and to what standards. I'm concerned that a lot of times these projects are very shoestring financed, and that long-term, that doesn't bode well for the tenants and/or the owners. And so my questions are, to what standards are you building it? Hopefully more than the minimal building code, because that's a very low standard in the state. What are some specifics about the quality of the windows you're going to use? What are the R values? What is the air leakage going to be within the building? Do you have a set of standards that you're giving to your architect that the builder has to meet?
We do try to, we of course meet minimum building codes, and in this case, we're doing some extra things given the population. So the building will have a sprinkler system, it will have an elevator. Normally in a two-story building, we would not put in an elevator. Also, it is because we own these long-term, and we always are looking at the building envelope, and we've consulted with weatherization, and we are working with BED as well as Vermont Gas at energy efficiency opportunities. The new building will have a very strong thermal envelope, which will help. We'll be using some sort of heating and cooling systems and trying to meet the high energy efficiency track. So we are cognizant of that. When CHT purchases or has a property, we own it, we operate it. We're really looking at the long-term longevity. So we're very mindful when we select materials for durability, that it is cost-benefit analysis. You really want to have that longevity over time. We're not like a fix-it-and-flip type of landlord. We own this. This is permanently affordable housing, and we are in it for the long term.
I would invite you to come to see the development that we're doing in Shelburne and walk around and look at the materials. I have also looked at private developers' stuff, because we're friends with them in terms of the work. We do as much as they do, if not better. No granite countertops, but the best countertops we could buy.
Better than they do may not be very good.
Okay. All right.
So my questions are, what are your R values for your walls? What are your R values for your ceiling? What are the air infiltration? What kind of air changes per hour are you meeting? Do you have a separate air?
We're not there yet. We will. I could tell you that the building we built in Laurentide on North Avenue was the best air blower test, door test in the state when it was done. So that means that we're doing this in a way that ensures that it is as energy efficient as possible. It's to our benefit to do this to that level, because we save costs in operating. And to everybody, yeah. So we're not slapping this together. As Kristen said,
Standards that you should meet for this heat.
we'll meet all the energy standards.
We absolutely will meet those standards. We are working on the building envelope, but this is still a conceptual.
I'm talking about standards versus code.
We go past we'll go past code.
We go past code.
Absolutely.
But,
We just haven't. I just don't have anything in particular I could provide you at this point to say exactly
We just don't have
what.
that level of detail, because we're here again, this is the first stop to hear questions and to get people's input.
Did you have a question?
You did? Go for it.
I can be the caboose. You go ahead.
All right. Hi, Dave Conger. I'm a resident of Spruce Court. I know Kirsten from other avenues. And I'd like to describe my lived experience. I've lived adjacent to this facility for more than a decade. And when it was first changed over hands, we were described a different story than what occurred there as a group home. What's occurred since has been a nightmare of summers with screaming people outside all hours of the night, swearing, cussing, us calling Howard, them saying, we can't do anything, call the police. This is my lived experience with this facility. I have zero trust in Champlain Housing Trust to expand this facility in a fashion that is palatable as a neighbor. I don't find your facilities run well. operated or otherwise, and I don't see how you can come up with an operational requirement. You know, this is a different group that you're describing, a demographic, but again, when this started, more than 2008, 2009, I forget the exact time, when the facility was transformed, it was described to my wife in a different fashion than what happened. So as we sit here now, you describe a demographic that tomorrow could be a different demographic, and we're stuck for the long haul, like you said, as a resident of Burlington with this facility next to us. I'm not sure that of all the details of the zoning things, but I heard a couple things that I'm not sure, 3,700 square foot, Kirsten, I think you mentioned, that exceeds the residential corridor square footprint. So this is a conditional use, and by definition, you have to be a good neighbor. And I think Champlain Housing Trust has not been a good neighbor. And, you know, I will be opposing this with my neighbors.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that. You described a lot of shouting going on and calling Howard, and Howard saying it wasn't their responsibility. And what I'm hearing you say is that there was shouting perhaps in the neighborhood?
No, at this facility.
At the facility. So
them coming through our yard, calling, and this is all hours of the night, daytime, nighttime. I have small kids, you know, have to shut the window because this is stuff you don't want to hear in the.
Again, this is not 22 people in a group home. These are tenants. These are people who have a right to live.
Also, what was not described of the previous facility.
Well, again, it's a different facility than it was.
Before two.
Excuse me?
It was supposed to be before two.
Well, again, I'll say it again. It's not a group home with 22 people living in individual rooms. It is 10 tenants of ours living under agreements with us, with services provided to them because they have some disability. They live, by the way, they live in your neighborhood now, those people. I could point 3 houses not far from you where those people live. They live in my house. They have a right to live in Burlington, and they have a right and we have an opportunity to provide them the opportunity to be able to live here where they were born. That's why we're building this facility. And so I would ask you for some grace to the opportunity to keep your children, your adult children, living in Burlington. That's all we're doing here.
And will Champlain Housing Trust forever say this is what the use will be?
It's got to be these 10 apartments for this purpose.
Would you put that as part of your approval?
I think our approvals have.
Again, that's where the rub is.
Yeah.
This was described in a totally different fashion.
Was it described as a group home?
It was described as a group home with
Right.
a lower level. And
We're not doing a group home here. We're doing 10 apartments.
again, community house zoning, can you, as part of your application, describe what the use will be, not as a zoning ordinance, because the zoning ordinance is very vague and could be a group home, easily switched.
And if it turned into 10 apartments, would you be opposed to it?
As long as it meets other zoning requirements.
Okay, so that's what we'll do, for sure. We're going to meet the zoning
Which
requirements.
I don't think you meet, by the way.
Okay, we're going to meet the zoning requirements that we have in front of us, so.
Thanks. Thank you, everyone. So a couple things, just responding to some of the comments. It seems like this is as we saw earlier tonight, it seems like more public input and conversation is going to be an important part of this process because unfortunately, based on the last project, there was loss of trust. To me, this is night and day. This is a new demographic of people with very different habits and noise levels and all of it. So I think that there's a very positive path forward. And the other thing I just wanted, but that communication and that dialogue is clearly very important and has not been there. So it sounds like there's a commitment to do better. Mostly, though, I just wanted to say thank you because I'm the big sister of a teenager with severe developmental disabilities, and we have this conversation in my family a lot of, what's going to happen to her after. Sorry, louder even with the microphone. Oh, sorry. Okay, sorry, I'm hurting people's ears on Zoom. But, I think anyone who has a friend or family member who has the type of disabilities that the folks living in this type of housing knows that this is just an absolutely critical resource that does not exist really in many places in America. It doesn't exist in Burlington, and we're going to need more projects like this, whether it's for vulnerable folks with disabilities, whether it's for older adults as our population ages. We're the third oldest state in the country, and so I just want to thank CHT for this is a very innovative approach, and to come to the table and to go through the process of engaging with the folks who are going to actually live there. I just think that's all really impressive, and I think we're lucky to have you. So
Thank you.
Thank
I
you
appreciate
on
that.
behalf of the city and of Big Sister.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have a quick question. Based on what I'm hearing from the neighbors that live close to the project, is the possible code of conduct of the folks that are going to leave. You made, yeah, sorry. You gave some assurances that this is completely different group of folks that are going to be living in this house or in this building, in part because they already do leave some houses that are already within the vicinity and not that too far from the project. So are you giving assurances that whoever is going to be living in that vicinity itself will be behaving well, and that if anything happens, that there will be an adequate response to deal with it? So this way there's no, like, call this person and call that person and call that person before any response happens, because the last thing you want is the same issue to continue based on the lived experience from neighbors as well.
Well, I think I'll try to repeat it. I appreciate the question, and I think we will have, again, a service provider who will work with individuals who may be struggling at any given moment, or providing them with the support they need to go to work, do a vacation, go to school, okay? So the individuals who are living here are going to be a range of folks. They're not just one type of person, but a range of folks with some disability. My son can't work. He needs medication in the morning and the evening. I need to administer that to him. He needs someone to bring him food, and he needs a little bit of sort of social time. He has zero executive functioning skills. If he was to live here, he would basically just require a little bit of support. Somebody else's daughter or son will need more work and more support. But there will be that support there on site. That's the distinction and difference between this and them simply living in the community somewhere else. You will have that, and that's a little different than what's been there before in terms of the sizing and the number of people who were there and the kind of services that were provided. I would also say that CHT can take action with its tenants depending upon the level of behavior. I could also tell you that I spent a lot of time in the legislature trying to get better laws in order to move tenants who are real problems out. I actually expect these 10 tenants to be the least problematic of the tenants that we have. And we do struggle with tenants who are difficult. And that's the truth of anyone who is a landlord at this moment in Burlington. And I can tell you it's hard sometimes to move people out. We're working on trying to make that better when we think that the action is egregious. So that's what you're asking me. Can you take somebody? Can you deal with this? And I'm going to say we're working as hard as we can to do that. And we have done that as best as we can within the law, and we continue to work on better laws in order to make us be able to move quickly when the action of the tenant is harmful to themselves and neighbor or the community. And that's a part of our lease. That's the distinction and difference between us and Howard in this context. There is an context in our lease which talk about those things. We didn't have that with Howard. Howard really had anybody they needed to put in there, they put in there. We'll have something that's different than that in the context of these 10 apartments. So I'm thinking, what I'm trying to say is there'll be more responsiveness coming from both services and from the owner as a landlord, where we're going to be more directly involved. You want to say something?
Yeah.
Yes, you do.
I just want to say, too, as a parent, my son is pretty functional. He has Down syndrome. He works at UVM in the grounds. He can take the bus there. Most of the people, but he can't manage time, he can't manage money, he can't, you give him $20 and he'll hand it to the girl at after he buys a donut as the tip. So he needs some supervision. Some other of his friends are people in wheelchairs who need diaper changes, who don't communicate. Most of these parents are parents of young adults with high to moderate needs. So they're not going to live completely in an apartment on their own. They're going to need, my son could get himself breakfast and lunch, dinner once a week or two, maybe, but he needs somebody there to prompt him or to check on him, or if he's going to go play basketball, to be able to look out the window and say, okay, you've been out there for 2 hours, it's getting a little rowdy, you need to come in. Very much, we're like having a child. It's like you have a 10-year-old or something. It's like having a 10-year-old. I still have a 10-year-old, and he's 26. Yeah. Many of these young people also have sensory issues. So we did have a lot of discussion in the planning of the property or the house, that there would be, is there going to be additional insulation? Is there a way to keep it so that people have their space? There's a sensory room for people who need to have a quiet room that's going to be totally quiet for them to go in, calm down. It's a very different population than, yeah. My son will be the one outside going, no swearing.
You have a question? No? Okay.
Is it anybody else? No? Kathleen?
You want to say something? Give her a microphone. Also a parent, yeah. Yeah.
Yes. And yes, my name's Kathleen. This is our son, Patrick. And he is 33, just turned 33 this week. And he's the fourth of our 7 kids that have all come through Burlington schools. We're in the New North End, and we are hopeful for more projects like this. I have no idea if Patrick would ultimately live in this setting, but I am encouraged that it's happening and that similar projects are happening around the state to accommodate this really critical need. I also have a unique perspective in that my mother lived at Converse Home in this very neighborhood for 4 years. She developed Alzheimer's, and we were so blessed to have that care in your neighborhood, for those of you living here. I just see this location almost as a little parallel to Converse Home in terms of what's provided there and what I observe there. And I would hope for the same very high standard of care and supervision in this facility that my mother received at Converse Home. And again, Converse Home is, 3 or 4 times larger than what this property would be. So I'm really hopeful, and I just wanted to share that this neighborhood might be really unique in housing individuals with long-term needs that many of us are going to develop in our lifetime. The age range in this home might be half of what is happening at Converse Home, and but I just wanted to share that I don't think, from my understanding, Converse Home at its size is presenting a lot of issues for the immediate neighbors in terms of noise or behavior, et cetera. Thank you.
Jen.
Yeah, I'm Jen Townley, and I was one of the parents working on this project with CHT, and I think they've put together a great plan. I feel for you based on prior experiences, but I'm going to just say, if you knew my kid, he's contributing member of society, he's working, he volunteers, he fundraises for Special Olympics. He's usually in bed by 9, sometimes 8:30, and he is not a noisemaker. And so just, they're all different, you know what I mean? But developmentally quite delayed, and I don't foresee this population being at all where it's a more chronic group home of mental health that I think was here before. So I hope you can welcome them, and there'll be many great people you'll get to meet.
So my son is in bed at 7 o'clock. And I caught him today bringing $3 to the Associates in Haircutting, where he gets his haircut every month or two. And he basically gives Tenzin some money so that he has an account there so he can go in and get a shave and a haircut once in a while. So whenever he has a few bucks left, that's what he does. So these are the people that you have to be afraid of. And I appreciate the difficulty it's been. I appreciate it. I'm not trying to make light of it, but I'm just saying this is who we're caring for.
I'll also offer you, Dave, that you do know me now, and from before and now, and you do know how to reach me. And so I think the difference is when we leased to Howard, it was all for them, and the lease is with Howard. In this case, we are the landlord, we are the lease. We will be more, we have more ability to engage, be responsive, and we would, yeah. So I'll just offer that.
It has not been a good 15 years.
Understood.
We like the rest of us.
Other questions? Other people?
Who's in charge here? Okay.
All right, well, it was a good conversation, so I wanted to make sure that since people spend their time, they got to ask any
And
questions
we'll come
they
back,
wanted.
we'll answer your questions, and we'll come back with more information. So we have no hesitation on our part to come back and chat more, talk more, get more an understanding of what the community really needs in terms of management, and do all of that work. That's what we want to do. We'll do that.
I would say also,
You got to use the
most of our young people do some volunteer, some of them don't, but they're very interested in being involved in community. They've mostly grown up, and so then they're interested in playing basketball on the whatever team or hanging out with people in the community. If there's a community that, if you have a picnic or whatever, they're going to want to be helping, cutting grass for somebody or something like that.
Don't get me wrong, the biggest issue was not necessarily the population, it was the management and operation of that population that was inadequate.
Yeah.
That's the simple truth, is that, the spectrum of needs is just that, a spectrum.
Yeah.
And Howard did not do a good job. And that's about it's an understatement in many.
Yeah, and again, I think you're whispering in my ear, and basically, this is not for people with severe mental illness and sort of the chronic needs that they were in a group home. And frankly, I think Howard believed that, in fact, this building wasn't good for them either. That's why they moved. Yeah. And so that's why they moved to a brand-new building. And so I think, there's a recognition, in fact, that they probably couldn't manage it well in the context of the building itself. So I think we're going to hopefully do better with individual apartments and some support there that's different than what was there before.
We have a last question.
Okay.
So I just had a question about how do you see the building over time? What is the age range do you think that you will have for tenants to begin with, and then will they age there?
Yeah.
Are you expecting that they'll live there for 20 or 30 years? Is that the idea?
I could say that our tenants have the ability to, once they are in our housing, to request to move to another location. So these folks might decide that they don't want to live in this setting, they want to live someplace else. They can come to us, and we could try to find them a new location. So our tenants actually have more mobility to live in a variety of places. Maybe after they move there, Williston comes up 5 years from now, and they go, I want to live in Williston, or whatever it might be. We don't raise rents dramatically. We try to keep them stable. People are evicted when they break a lease condition. Otherwise, they have the ability to stay there as long as they want. We have had tenants who have lived at locations forever who feel like they own the place, and we have tenants who move on and move to different locations because of family size or jobs or something else. So there are 200 or so turnovers every year within our portfolio. We have at least decent-sized portfolio. People move on to another location, so. This is a very specific group, but I could imagine also that they will have some mobility. They might choose to live someplace else. They might choose to go to another location. We have 10 of these now across the state, and they said they want to move to Moncton or to some other part of the state, and they sort of make that request, and they can do that. So
Will they all be young adults?
they're all going to be yes, young adults. And I think at this point the definition is probably under 40. That's young for us, yeah. Isn't that young for us? I think it's young for us, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I think we're going to move on now.
Appreciate it. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much. Is the person from CHT here?
That's me.
Well, that was
That's it. We
Oh,
just
I'm
did it.
sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
DPW.
You're on to the next.
No one from DPW? Okay. Then we're going to have.
Oh, okay, that's us.
Are you
Funny seeing you
DPW?
here.
You're the open space people.
Yeah, we're the open space people. Yes.
Yes, okay.
Can I?
Presentation. I have a presentation, and I need to be made a panelist on the Zoom. My name is Scott Guston. Perfect, thank you.
Open space plan.
In the interest of time, can you condense? Okay.
So maybe we'll see you on
We'll go fast, as fast as we
Please,
can.
Please. We're so far behind, it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
hopeless.
Yeah.
All right, you good?
We're good. Great.
Just an hour behind? 3 people. You'd be lucky. All right. Boy, I guess I should be offended.
Yeah.
Serious, big time here.
Yeah, so good evening. I'm Scott Guston. I work for the city of Burlington. I'm one of the city planners. I work down the hall, actually here. I'm here with Zoe Richards.
I'm a longtime Conservation Board member and wildlife biologist by training.
So we are here tonight mostly to get this on your radar, but also to hear some comments, if you have any, as we work on the rewrite of the city's open space plan. So the quick background is the city adopted its open space plan, 2001-ish, about 25 years ago. We've had some adjustments, and a couple of years ago we did a nature-based climate solutions addendum. But fundamentally, the plan is about 25 years old. So we are working to rewrite it. Burlington is largely built out. We don't have giant open spaces to conserve and protect. So this has a lot to do with making what we have better and more accessible to the community. So I'll keep this brief in light of the time, but we've been working on this for about a year now. And by we, I mean there are city staff from Parks, my department, the Office of City Planning, Conservation Board, and our consultant team agency, Landscape and Planning, as well as UVM Spatial Analysis Lab. So we've done a needs and values assessment, review of the prior plans, of course. There's a couple of slides that'll come upon soon about some of the work that the Spatial Analysis Lab did looking at Burlington's tree canopy. We had a round of stakeholder meetings and public outreach back in, November, and then public outreach January, February, and into the beginning of March. And some of those events, this is a better slide to look at than the other one. We had a fabulous day of skating at the Sea Caves in February. We had a table at the Winters Farmers Market. We were at Wintervale, and we engaged in, I understand this is not the new North End, it's the opposite of it, but we engaged in the kickoff for that plan back in February. And did some bowling that I didn't realize there was a bowling alley out there. It's St. Mark's, right?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. It was all vintage, by the way. It looked like original equipment. So what are we doing right now? So we did that stakeholder and public outreach and engagement, and we and our consultants have taken all of that initial input, which was a pretty broad ask, basically, what do you think about the open space plan and where should we go with the new one? We've taken that all and are starting to flesh out some foundational components of that plan. But before we get into that, a few highlights of the Spatial Analysis Lab tree canopy analysis. So presently, we have about 40% of our open spaces, or current canopy coverage of the city, is about 40%, about 2,600 acres. We looked at about a 10 or 12 year time frame between the last analysis and this current one. We've had some gains as well as some losses, unsurprisingly. Overall, we've had a 4% relative loss in canopy. Some hot spots for losses are, unsurprising, the Cambrian Rise development going up off North Avenue, as well as the Champlain Parkway right there. And most of the gains, I suppose, unsurprisingly as well, were in parks and other green spaces in the city. So this is kind of a neat graphic that the analysis lab put together. Purple basically shows where there were significant tree canopy losses. So you can see up there, the far north end by Star Farm, that's where the solar fields went in. You can see a purple blob a little bit south of Lone Rock Point, that's Cambrian Rise, and you can see a purple line where the parkway was installed, as well as some green, largely in the Intervale and up along the Winooski River corridor. So we could spend all night and then some going over the spatial analysis lab work, but we won't because it's late. So some of the emerging themes that are coming into focus now, there's basically 4 primary themes, as well as some cross-cutting values and topics. And I'll touch on each one briefly in these next slides. So conserve, okay, open space plan, that seems like an obvious theme. And we heard a lot about conserve and conservation from public and stakeholders. The city has a conservation legacy fund that came on the heels of the initial open space plan. For the first 15, 20 years or so of that being a thing, it was used exclusively for land acquisition and conservation. More recently, in the past year or two, that's been broadened to help support a local grant program to help local organizations with nature-based climate solutions. But we continue to hear real and sustained need and community interest in funding conservation infrastructure. I won't get into the weeds of that, but the punchline here is that one of the things that we think this new plan will do is look at ways to broaden funding opportunities for the Conservation Legacy Fund. The graphic here, just really briefly, darker green is larger forest blocks, and this is something the Spatial Analysis Lab did. As the green gets lighter, it's smaller forest blocks. Connect is another one. We have a lot of fragmented green spaces in Burlington, unsurprisingly, because we're largely built out. But we heard a lot about the need and desire to connect these spaces, both in terms of transportation and accessibility, but even physically with green corridors where possible. Experience, what this map shows is the blue is basically woods experiences, like larger blocks like Lone Rock Point, Durway Island, And the red is more about proximity to, I'll say, more ball fields, tennis court type parks. But how can we improve access and public awareness of those things? And finally, cultivate. Burlington has a pretty strong community gardens program. There is far more need for that than supply. And so we're looking at ways to improve access, but also improve opportunities for community gardens. And then, of course, we all know about the Intervale up there, sort of midway up on the eastern side of this city. Burlington is unique in having that commercial agricultural base in the city as well. So upcoming steps, well, we're in the midst of upcoming steps. We've started wave 2 of stakeholder and public outreach and engagement. And in that, we're trotting out these initial themes and running them by folks to say, this is what we heard. These are the foundational components. What do you think? What are we missing? How should we refine and flesh these out? So that will go on through the end of this month. We're touring almost all the NPAs. I think Ward 1 doesn't have a slot until the fall. But we're doing the farmers market. I'll be at the Twilight Market this Saturday. We have a bunch of events coming up. The plan is to have a draft plan in place by next month. And I know it's ambitious, but we'd like to think that we can start public hearings for adoption with the Planning Commission, Conservation Board, and Parks in August, and hopefully get adoption with the City Council in September.
Can I jump in?
Yep.
Yeah, I just wanted to just make a plug for, it's really easy to think about open space and feel like, oh, it's just a great amenity. It's like this kind of thing that's really great to have, but it's not sort of like a central thing that's really important for the city. But, you know, I think with the many challenges we face with climate change, it's really important to remember the role that open spaces play and healthy ecosystems in things like keeping the city cool. That's one of the reasons that we bother to do these canopy analyses. We can drastically reduce the temperature of our city through strategic tree planting. We have to have a plan to do that. We have to figure out where the losses are, where the gains are. Sometimes it's always easy to feel like losses are from development, but they're also like the canopy is aging out, and we need to have active programs to make sure that we still have that. So that's some of the rationale behind doing a lot of this. Many of the things that we think about, like clean lake, we need to make sure that we don't have, you know, we need to have functional floodplains. We need to put money into things like invasive species so that we can continue to grow trees. It's actually a threat right now in Chittenden County. We have a lot of deer. We've got a lot of invasive species. It's really hard to regenerate our canopy. So we go through a planning process like this to make sure that these things, all the services that the natural world provides to us that we take for granted, that we're not taking for granted. So so you're seeing the outcome. This is how we're thinking about it. This is how we're going through it. But I just wanted to give you a little bit of a why about why we do it. It's vastly underappreciated and vastly important to quality of life in Burlington.
What she said.
Yeah.
Real quick, so we have a website, of course. This is not the website, it is a snapshot of the website. So it's late, and you probably don't want to weigh in extensively tonight. So conveniently, we have the green button down there on the lower left. You probably can't read it, but it's there. Just look at Burlington's website, Plan BTV, Open Space. It will bring you to this website, and you can click on that green button and fill out either a short survey or a long survey. Folks doing the long survey, is about 20 minutes, are entered into a raffle with the winner getting a framed piece of artwork from Christine, what's her last name?
Tyler Hill.
Yes, that one. I think that's it.
I think that's it. So anyways, we're just doing a lot of, I think, really creative, forward thinking that I think is really important, and it's an opportunity to come before an NPA to both say we're, you know, hear what people think, but also know that this work is really valuable to the city. Thank you very much.
So, I talked fast.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks so much for doing it.
And now we're having our legislative updates.
All right, thank you.
We're gonna.
Oh, you're after us.
Yeah. We're gonna do a magic trick here because we have far and away the most material to cover, and we're not gonna say a word.
So we we've written a legislative report. It's obviously not complete because we still have to go back for a veto session and to consider whatever compromise education bill is put before us. And again, we're around Saturday from 8 to 10 at Speeder and Earls, but we also can be reached easily through our legislative addresses, and we're both, I think, pretty good at getting back to folks in a timely way if there are things you want to know. So we're happy to give these out. I also have very small QR codes, so there are links in this to things, so if you want that, you can have that too. Okay. I'm sorry?
Is there a place to find that online?
Well, yep, it is, we put it out on Front Porch Forum, so the, both wards 5 and 6, there was a post that went out, I think it was yesterday, right? And we can send, I mean, it's hard to know. We put out a MailChimp to folks who are on our list with a link to it. I can send it to the NPA if you want to have it so that it's something, I don't know if you ever distribute things to people after the fact, but.
We do have a newsletter.
Okay.
That's sent out
Well,
by email.
okay, so we can send that out, and we'll put it in Front Porch Forum again. So, anyway, we'll be right by the door and hand these to you.
Well, I think we're at the end of a very long.
Oh, sure, sure. Thank you. QR code there.
Thank you.
Can I take it?